So, good morning, everyone. Welcome, bienvenue, and thank you for joining today's session. This session is going to be highlighting the vital role of open, analysis-ready Earth observation data, coupled with the open, powerful tools and platforms for the continent of Africa. My name is Matthew Pennells, and I am the Regional Manager for Africa at Esri Inc. And it has been our pleasure at Esri to support the fantastic work of Digital Earth Africa. And today you'll be hearing from a number of pioneers in this space from the Digital Earth Africa establishment team and Esri's Africa Geoportal team. I'd ask everyone to have a very fruitful session, but my main ask is you go and use these tools and data. They're there to be used, they're there to be put to good work on solving some of the geospatial challenges in the continent. I wish everyone a fantastic session, and I'll now hand over to Pauline. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you so much for joining us from Abidjan. I will take over from here. Welcome again, everyone. In this next 50 minutes, we will have 3 presentations brought to you by both Digital Earth Africa and Esri. My name is Fan Yuan. So I am the Director of Operations for the Digital Earth Africa program, and I will facilitate this session today for you. We will have 3 presentations, as Matt just mentioned. One introduction from Adam Lewis of Digital Earth Africa, one technical demo from Joseph Turishimia from Digital Earth Africa, and another demo and presentation on Africa Geoportal by Pauline Okio. And finally, we'll also have set aside time for an open discussion with all of you. And before we start the presentations, I just also want to mention that there's not going to be a break in the 50-minute session. During the 3 presentations, if you have a question that you want to ask, please type the question in the Q&A using the Q&A function, and I will take discretion to decide whether we will have time to take questions between the presentations. And of course, during the final open discussion, if you want to make a comment, you can either type in the question or raise your hand, and we'll be able to put you on the stage to actually speak. And with that, we will start the session presentations. And I'm very happy to introduce you our first speaker, who's Dr. Adam Lewis, the Senior Advisor to Digital Earth Africa. So Adam is, of course, well known in the EO community. Until recently, Adam was leading the Digital Earth Africa establishment team, and he has led the development of the first data cube leading to Digital Earth Australia and then Digital Earth Africa. And Adam is also an active participant in the Committee for Earth Observation Satellites. He has co-chaired CEOS Land Surface Imaging Team, leading the development of CEOS analysis-ready data, and he's also co-chaired CEOS Strategic Implementation Team from 2020 to this year. And Adam, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Fan. Good evening, good morning. Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Lewis, as has been said. Before I say anything more, I just want to clarify that if you look at my bio and details in the AirMeet platform, it has me as the SIT chair. I'm not the SIT chair at the moment, and I am technically unable. I've tried several times to fix that, but I am here as a senior advisor to Digital Earth Africa. So when we talk about this session, it's how do we, pathways to impact in Africa. It's worth thinking about what the impact could be if we get the pathways right. And work we've done with the World Economic Forum and others has flagged that there's literally billions of dollars of value in the socioeconomics, in the goodness to people of opening up Earth observations to make a small difference in the way we make big decisions. And whether they're in mining or agriculture, growing the industry or other areas, there's literally billions of dollars per annum of value to Africa if we can get this right, these pathways to data. Next slide, please, Fun. Digital Earth Africa itself is a program driven by need. So the first part of getting a path right is to have a need, we think. And our objective with DE Africa has been to provide an African-based, African-led, routine and reliable operational service using Earth observations to deliver information that's ready to help decision makers and that supports policy and investment decisions, as well as fostering an environment of innovation by making the data and tools widely available. So the motivation is part of the path. Next slide, please, Fun. Another thing we've done very consciously from the outset, which we think is crucial to this pathways to impact, is having an operational platform approach. So we're not about one country or one small area or one data set, but have built an operational platform, something that can be relied upon, built upon, that gives access to free and open data set that's in an analysis ready format, and providing open source tools that can be used by everybody. If we can do that, then conceptually we have data on the left of this slide for all of Africa. We have open source tools and innovations like the Open Data Cube, and we can create information, people can create information to support the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2063, and produce cool information on the right-hand side across a whole range of applications and themes. So the next, that operational and scale thing we think is crucial to this pathway to impact. The next thing, which is really important on the next slide, is the idea of analysis-ready data. And you can conceptualize this as, on the left-hand side, there's lots of satellites orbiting the globe, operated by the space agencies, and they produce information, data that goes to the space agencies. Either the space agencies or us or somebody else converts that data to be analysis ready. And there's steps of processing needed to do that, but a lot of work's going toward ESA and USGS producing their data as analysis ready. And there's a certification for that through CEOS, CEOS analysis ready data framework. Once the data are in that format, then we can also make them cloud optimized geotips, add in spatiotemporal asset catalog metadata, so a few other technical things, and the data actually land in Amazon Web Services in Cape Town. And this happens as an operational chain. So every day, new satellite images are added automatically to that data store in Cape Town. That then allows us to use the Open Data Cube to support platforms, our Data Explorer and our Jupyter Sandbox and our map, which produce information on the right. And Joseph will talk, the demonstration will talk a bit about some of those. So the next barrier, so this is about removing the technical barriers to access. But this slide, next slide, is then about pre-processing some continental services. So we can unlock the potential of the data if we produce some fundamental information from it that decision makers can pick up and use. So on the top left, where's the surface water? Well, this is our water observations from Space Service. That can be produced for the whole continent, and it can be done on an annual basis. And we're doing that. Where can I see the land changing? The one on the right here is our geomedian service, which every 6 months captures a cloud-free statistical and synthetic image of Africa, which can be used to observe changes in the coastline or the land or whatever else. Where are the areas of cropping is the bottom left. This is our 10-meter resolution crop area map across Africa. Where is the coastline changing, and so on. So there are continental service products that can be produced from these data that are closer to the decision maker, that get moved close, and that idea of moving closer and closer to the user's perspective, I think is an important one in terms of getting these pathways to impact. So the next slide then moves to what does some of this look like once people pick it up and it gets into the hands of users. And we have a whole range of use cases emerging from Digital Earth Africa as individuals and intermediary users take the data and make information and run with it. And so here we're looking at the Okavango Delta and changes in how the surface water available in the delta in certain places has changed from year to year, being driven by Dr. Kalabuli here, who's based in Southern Africa. So that's one use case amongst many. If we go to the next slide, we have a use case where the local communities looking around Lake Baringo, looking at the Rothschild giraffe, have been using the data to understand how the water levels have changed, why the islands that the giraffes were on were reducing, and they've actually relocated the giraffes in a fairly picturesque process using big rafts off certain islands and onto the mainland to protect them. So completely different context, same sort of data. Really exciting, though, are the cases where we get to institutions here in Tanzania working through themselves how they can connect Earth observation data to decision makers dealing with the SDGs. So doing the process of saying, as a government institution, what is it we can take from Digital Earth Africa that helps our business in a sustained way? And this connection with governments who develop influential policies, obviously, and make consequential decisions that affect many people are really important because governments are such big players globally in the use of Earth observation. So this use case is sort of demonstrating the exploration of that really exciting boundary. And the next one goes to some of that actually having traction. So here in Ghana, we have a case very hot off the press where on the left, we have a map of how deforestation has occurred over time. On the right, we have a map of how urbanization has spread. And the really, really exciting things about these is that they're not just maps produced in academia or by me or somebody else in a team. They're maps that appear in these official documents from Ghana Statistics Office, which are in the bottom right and the bottom left. So here we're seeing actual uptake into influential organizations of DE Africa data to inform process. So that's where we want to get to and where we are starting to get to in terms of having impact in Africa. So finally, or second to finally, none of this happens, and one of the crucial ingredients to having impact is working with others. So we've tried to work very inclusively with many players across the continent, beyond the continent, Geo, AfriGeo, the regional institutions in Africa, as well as Amazon Web Services and Esri, who will speak next, who've been really vital corporate partners in doing public good work to support what we're doing here. And the next and final slide is a pass ball to the next, to Matt, who'll speak later, Pauline, who'll speak later about the Africa Geoportal. So once all the data, if the data are in place, how do people interact with it? The more windows we have for people to interact with the data and the more familiar those windows are, the lower the barriers to use. And so the Africa Geoportal is a key part of that. Now, Frank, that's all I intended to say, so I'll end here. Thank you very much. And I think we'll take questions later in the day. But look, anybody, please chip into the chat with questions and we can try and answer them as we go through, so don't hold back.
Yep. Thank you, Adam, and good timing. So next, we have one of our first technical demo, and with pleasure, I will introduce you Joseph Tuishmir, who's an EO and GIS specialist with Digital Earth Africa and also our user engagement manager. So Joe has academic background in biology and geoinformation Earth observation applied to natural resources management. He is currently doing a PhD and a research focus on the effect of environmental dynamics on tropical diseases, which is very interesting. He's also been a researcher at the University of Rwanda since 2012. His research interests include application of geoinformation and Earth observation in biodiversity conservation, forestry, natural resources management, environment, and the linkage between rural-urban landscape fabrics and human health. With that, Joe, it's all yours. And let me know when you want to start sharing your screen.
All right, thank you, Fang, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Mine will be talking about the South Africa platforms. Mainly, let's start on how to access our interface. First of all, we know people need capacity building and to so that they could know how to pre-process, access, process, even interpret, disseminate digital South Africa datasets. So we have a learning platform which is available in both French and English. They are very detailed materials with videos that could introduce us to EO, the data sets, some indices that could help to monitor natural phenomena, and also it's almost 6 weeks training, and after we go through it, we get a certificate. So far, we have above 200 um, people with the certificate, and people are still registering. You can register whenever you want and get the certificates. So then I'm ready to show like two main tools for digital South Africa. Fine, can I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, could you see my screen? Um, Actually, Digital South Africa has two main interfaces. The first one is the Digital South Africa maps. This is very friendly, user friendly, and could be it's available in both French and English. And through this, you could access all the products from Digital South Africa. So we have our surface frequency product from both Landsat and Sentinel imageries. We have our annual geomaps for Landsat and Sentinel. So those are good products because they are cloud free and they cover the whole continent, and they are pretty good resolution, 10 meter for Sentinel, and also 8 meter 30 meter resolution for Landsat. So there it could be both annual and semi-annual. We have the surface temperature, we have the radar data. Those are cloud free data sets derived from Sentinel imageries. We have also the water observations from space, where we have the daily water observations, annual water observations, and permanent water observations. And also have the COP masks. Those products are covering the whole continent from the eastern to the western northern of Africa. So we have also land cover from different sources, especially the global mangrove watch and and so on. So through digital South Africa maps, you could access all those products. Let's take like two examples. So here we have been using the water observation from space, trying to monitor Lake Naivasha in Kenya, and we have been trying to compare 2 years. Um, so the first one was 2000, and the second one was 2020. The first one was 2000, the second one was 2020. And we'd like to see the how the lake has been changing over time. So the upper part, as you see, this part is 2000, moment, please. My internet is not that quick. Um, so let's add the whole data set. We have our water observation from space. Um, our annual water observation from space. We can choose the date that you want. You can see this is our Lake Naivasha. This is the image for January 2000. We can do a comparison uh, for 2 years. So now we are taking the 2020 as the second year. Then, as you see, we have our 2000 on the right side and 2020 on the left side. And if you see, you can see this was 2000, and if you see the whole northern part and the southern part has been drying up. So through this South Africa dataset, we can monitor this change and try to communicate the result to the audience through. We have a storytelling button. We can create a story and share it with the public, but also we can also copy the link and share it with the public. So this is the first way of water monitoring from space, which are available via this South Africa dataset. The second one should be a kind of vegetation monitoring. So this is somewhere in Serengeti, in Tanzania, where we have been using our annual GeoMAD and our NDVI to monitor the vegetation change between 2017 and 2020. So if you see on our side, left side, we have, this is the way the park was looking in 2017, and this is the way the park is looking at 2020. So we could say, using our annual GeoMAD any device from Sentinel-2 imagery available on the Digital Africa platform, you can say 2020 is greener compared to 2017. Maybe they could say there was a kind of drought in 2017 and 2020 were doing well. This product could be accessed always on Digital Africa platform. But also, we can calculate a difference for in NDVI. We have also a difference tool in Digital South Africa, and we can use it to calculate the change over years. So this is the difference. The dark blue colors are increase in NDVI, while the reddish decrease in the DVI. So you see, overall, there has been an increase in the vegetation cover on the greenness in Serengeti National Park between 2017 and 2020. So this was a very user-friendly interface, but you also have our sandbox, which is a Python-based interface. It is available in both French and English. So what you need is to log in and to access already developed codes that could help people to do more advanced analysis. So it's a matter of setting up, logging in, and access already developed notebooks. So lastly, as I started, so this was very short. We have our user training for the capacity building, and this could be always accessed whenever people need. Okay, I think this was not for now, Frank. I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. And if you stop share on your side,
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to share briefly again. because we're going into the last presentation and demo, which is about Geoportal. Oops. And I will be introducing to you Pauline Okio, who's also joining us from Abidjan. Thank you so much, Pauline. Pauline is a solution engineer from Esri, and she is a GIS professional with more than 10 years of experience. Currently, as a solution engineer in Esri in Africa, she is supporting Pan-African organizations, regional partners, and international organizations in using Esri solution to achieve sustainable development across the continent. Prior to joining Esri, Pauline worked for Esri Eastern Africa as a professional services manager responsible for the development and implementation of the training and services portfolio in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. And before that, she was working on biodiversity management for the Kenya government. And thank you, Pauline, again for joining us. And I'll hand over to you, please.
Thank you, Wang, and thank you everyone for being in our session. So I'll just do a demonstration on how we can access the Digital Earth Africa data within Africa Geoportal. So I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. So I'll just start with a brief introduction on Africa Geoportal. So Africa Geoportal is an initiative from Esri for development across Africa, whereby we've combined tools and learning resources, as well as providing the infrastructure to actually disseminate data or content across Africa. So from this particular platform, we worked with a number of organizations, government agencies, and other partners across the continent to be able to provide data that will be useful and considered authoritative for use across the continent, as well as tools to interact with that data. So be it visualization of data, online analysis, and being able to create web applications. You have also provided tools that support that. And finally, we are making learning resources available just to help people build the capacity in working with spatial data that is specific to the continent. And we have a number of courses that provide that ability to develop capacity. So within the Geoportal, we've provided access to content in forms of data or layers, as well as applications which are used to convey a certain kind of information. And some of the countries that we've worked with to provide country-specific data are indicated here on the screen, as well as agencies that we've also worked with to be able to provide meaningful data. So if you come to Digital Earth Africa, the section here, you'll be able to access the portal that we have for Digital Earth Africa within Africa Geoportal. And from this point, we're just also giving emphasis or helping to amplify the data that Digital Earth Africa has, considering we are collaborators with them in terms of enabling people to easily access data from Digital Earth and be able to use it within our platform. So from the Digital Earth Africa Geoportal, within Africa Geoportal, we've provided access to some ready-to-use applications that are actually referring to data products from Digital Earth. So if you explore the image renderer here, you launch the Product Explorer application, and the main purpose of this is to help users within Africa Geoportal as well as outside to be able to explore the data sets that they may be interested in, the ones that you've been able to bring in, and then be able to extract it for use in other areas. So, excuse me. One of the things that a user can do is they can look at different layers that you already have. We've brought in from the data cube, the Digital Earth Africa data cube, and they're able to explore information such as the 4 layers that we have, such as water observations from space, annual summary data. We also have some information on cropland extents, and we have provided easy rendering options for any user to be able to view this information. And we also have data from the Digital Earth Africa GeoMat, which has some information on the geomedian. That is a composite of information picked from Sentinel-2, and just helping users to get something that's a bit more statistically accurate in terms of the general appearance of a particular place or pixel over time. So once someone selects a particular image or product, they're able to render this information based on different items. So for example, we can look at this in terms of color infrared. We'll just give it a bit of time, given the connection I have. So the rendering happens effectively because we are using processing templates to quickly render or display this information based on the pixel values. And we have so many other options in terms of rendering that a user can take advantage of. So once someone zooms to a particular scale, they're also able to interact further with the imagery that's available and be able to extract it for use. So for example, if we're looking at the WAF's data set for the extent that Joseph had previously mentioned, one of the things a user can do is be able to select this information for a particular period. So you can look, like, for example, we have for 2010. If I just looked at this for 2020, the display will actually change. I'd be able to see this information. And beyond that, what we are providing to users is that they're able to download this imagery for use, either as displayed, that's the rendering, or the raw data with all the bands, and they're able to save this information locally on their machine as TIFF files. We're also providing the ability to share this as a link. That is, if I picked this URL here and shared it with someone, they'd get the same extent and be able to interact with the same data set. And also, we've provided the ability to share this data also within Africa Geoportal. So every user in Africa Geoportal has their own space where they can access the data, interact with it, and use tools within Africa Geoportal. So from that point, they can define the extent, then be able to preview this data and be able to export it for use. So other than the apps, we've also provided access to the actual data sets. As I mentioned, we're able to work with Digital Earth to bring in some of these data sets into Africa Geoportal for use. So for example, again, if you're looking at the GeoMat data set, once a user views the item details, they're able to launch this information, the metadata or item description of that data set, just providing information that the user can access to see what kind of information is contained there and how relevant it will be for their use, which we've been able to work again with the Africa to populate this information. After that, they're able to open this data on a map viewer, and this is just a template, this is just a canvas that we've provided for users to be able to interact with layers, be able to visualize them differently and do analysis on them. So for this example, with the layer, we have time animation enabled on it, just by simply coming to enable time animation, and you can see that what is on display is actually based on the time filter that's available there. So if we're to look at a specific place, such as one of the success stories or impact stories that the Africa has, it's for Lake Sulunga in Tanzania, where we can see that over time, the extent of the lake has changed, whereby we can see earlier on, the extent was quite low, but over time, it has consistently been increasing and so on. So some of the basic questions that could be answered using this data is, if there are any villages around this lake, and if they're affected, and how many households will be affected from this. So it's just a basic question where we are using this information to visualize and provide reference information to do our analysis. So again, if I just rendered this information using a different kind of display, so for rendering options, you can come to image display and be able to change how this data is being rendered. So I had clicked on water index just to be able to see that. We can see the extent of water, how that extent of the water has changed over time. And within Africa Geoportal, other than the standard data sets, you can also bring in data from other credible sources. So an example would be if I search for layers within Living Atlas, which is our main repository for authoritative content, I can search for information there. So if I had OpenStreetMap for Africa, I'd be able to search that data there. And if I'm interested in buildings, I can just click on that data set, have a description of this data again, just to assess if it's relevant for use and be able to add it to my display. And I've also added a data set that we have from one of our content partners, that's a Grid 3 program that have a settlement extents for Africa. And you can see once I've enabled that layer, we can see the villages that will be affected once the water would be increasing. So at times, maybe a government would like to know if a village has been consistently being affected by flooding, given the change in water extent, how would they be assisted in terms of relocation? So they need to identify the high priority ones just by basic visualization, where you can see some villages here would actually be consistently affected by this. And some of the analysis that you could be able to do, we've enabled this with tools we have available. For example, you have Summarize Within, whereby if we had the villages and we had the households within the villages, we'll be able to summarize for each village how many households will be affected by that. Another example would be, again, within being able to extract this information. As I said, we have sources from data from external sources, and we'd like to extract, for example, we get all the households and the villages that would only be affected. Then we could be able to do that using the tools we have online. So once that is done, I just zoomed to a particular section here for the villages. We will have the most affected village that are highlighted there, and the households that will be affected. So if I just came to this particular village, I'm able to see this information. So this is just some basic analysis being supported by the data we have from Digital Earth Africa. And once that is done, I can save this as a web map and have it available for use in this format, where I can share it with the extent to give someone who may need to make this decision, or create instant applications that can be used to convey this information. So an example would be this application that just generally shares information that someone would just need to see that this is the water extent as per the last period 2020, and this would be the affected villages as well as the households. And beyond that, we also have applications that basically can be used to also do assessments in the field. So in this example, we have a field, a village being selected there, and someone can do an assessment on a survey form and just be able to enter information such as how many vulnerable people are within a particular household, and the kind of support they're receiving, and so on. So that's just an example of how you can use data from Africa and the tools we have in Africa Geoportal to be able to create products that can be used to derive insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. That's very exciting to see how you can combine Digital Earth Africa data with other data sets to do very exciting applications. Thank you. With that, we have completed all of our presentations, and I can see that people already started to type in questions in the Q&A. Thank you, Paula. So the first question is from Julia from Young Professional. The question is, who are the main users of these services and platforms? Are they mostly public entities, NGOs, or also private? What are the major challenges you face in the relationships with the customers? So maybe we'll let both Adam and Pauline answer the question from their perspective. Adam, do you want to?
Thanks, Fawn. I think some of these questions are questions that you'd be able to answer better than me too, but let me have a quick shot at the first one. My response is that the target audience is very wide. It's public entities, NGOs, and the private sector, because the more groups who can leverage Earth observation data, the more benefit is derived from the data for Africa. So it's any user is, any well-meaning user is good. The challenges differ depending upon the customers, of course. So we have groups like academia who can naturally pick up the platform and use it as part of a training arrangement, through to governments where we're anticipating a lot of ongoing engagements needed to inform governments across portfolios what can be done with the data, how it could relate to them, to be building capacity for them to pick up the data and tie it in to their day-to-day business the same way that is happening organically in Ghana through the statistics office. And then with the private sector, we're doing some work with a number of private sector organisations. We've done a study of them about what they see as the barriers to access for Digital Earth Africa, and we're still working through that. But we're also running a couple of companies are going to do some very intense work with us around leveraging the platform, and maybe Fang could speak more to that. So I'll leave that there. Thanks, Fang.
Thank you. I think that's a great answer already. And I would really like Pauline to see if you want to add something to that as well.
Yeah, so I would say that we have identified a number of personas within Africa Geoportal who've been making use of the data that we've already put in from the Africa. So we have individuals who are doing research work, and this is a good source of content that they'll be able to use for their research work. We also have user communities of GIS users in different countries where we've seen them making use of this data. So an example we have an open, I think it's called DTZ group in Tanzania that actually they kept on checking to see if we have the data available, and for them they've been using this data, especially in the humanitarian work that they have been supporting in different parts of Tanzania and so on. The other personas are on groups that are actually doing hackathons, and they've been referring to this data set as a credible source of data that they'd be able to use for some of the work that they're doing in the hackathons. And again, with the applications that we have, we are having this persona of non-traditional GIS people who just want probably to see information in a format that they can interact with easily. So we've seen a lot of usage in terms of traffic towards these applications we have, which are available on the Africa site on the Geoportal. So we've noticed a lot of traffic towards that, where people are just trying to get some information that fits a specific purpose. Yeah, so we've seen a lot of usage from different kinds of personas.
Thank you, Pauline. And yeah, if I may, then I will also add that a lot of the things we do is around building capacity and to address that challenge of many type of users to learn about and how to use our platform. And that's one of that. Joe specifically has been doing a lot of capacity building for us in Africa. With that, I'll come to the second question, which is from Martin. And I think an ODC, part of ODC community. So the question is, do you have plans to include meteorological observations such as clouds, precipitation, temperature, and that may support the applications? And what are the challenges to integrate them into the DE platforms? Adam, do you want to take that question?
Well, again, Fang, I think you'll be able to pick up the mistakes I make. But the short answer is yes, Martin, and we're already including the CHIRPS data set, which I don't know much about, but the Fang does. So as demand drives the need for temperature or precipitation and so forth, then we would like to bring it into the platform. Obviously, the amount of things we can bring in is limited by our human resources in the software area, not in terms of the platform itself. And the challenges are, it's relatively easy to bring in data which are well described, which are on an accessible platform, which are well maintained, that have stack metadata. Essentially, if they're set up to be operational and well supported through IT across the cloud kind of data sets, then they're relatively easy to bring in, because Digital Earth Africa essentially just points to them. We've brought in the Global Mangrove Watch, for example, obviously not meteorological, and we've brought in ESA's World Cover and ESRI's Global Land Cover data set, and that's quite simple to do, and it increases the power of the platform for many purposes.
Thank you, Adam. No, I think that's a perfect answer, and absolutely, we're already trying to bring in some of these data sets into the platform, and yeah, also working on how to provide better examples of how people can leverage the existing data sets and combine the different informations in analysis. And we still have a couple of minutes left. And I do not see any additional question from, oh, sorry, just seeing. So please, if you have any question for the presenters, and if not, I might also just see if I can publish this poll so that you can you can give us a bit of feedback. But yeah, we're really interested to hear from you as well. Any comments that you might have, the things that you are doing and the challenges you're facing, and to pose that challenge to us as well. See, do you see the work that we're doing in Digital Earth Africa can potentially help you? Would you like to be using Digital Earth Africa platform or services? And yeah, any challenges that you want to pose to us that you want us to do or add on to our platform, and how you think that we can do our part of the job better. We're really keen to hear from you.
So perhaps, Feng, one thing we should just touch on for the audience whilst they're thinking about those things and doing the poll is that we're well into a process of fully transitioning Digital Earth Africa to Africa. We have, this hasn't come out in the session so far. However, the South African National Space Agency were chosen back in June to host the program management office, and we're currently going through a recruitment process for the key positions in there. So there'll be a managing director and a chief scientist and a chief of operations based in that program management office, hosted by SANSA in Pretoria. So that will be the final and biggest step to transitioning the capability fully into Africa. The cloud-based storage is already in Africa. There is a governing board that's largely African-based, led by Africans, and a technical advisory committee that comes from across the continent. And we have partnerships with all the regional, with half a dozen regional organisations from Tunisia through to South Africa. So, in case you're wondering how the African side is playing out, that's it. And one of the reasons it's me talking here tonight is that many of our colleagues are actually in Africa GIS or flying to the Amazon reInvent conference in the US and weren't actually available to speak here tonight.
Yes, I think we have another question comes in, and Paula, you can put that on stage. So that's a great question as well. So how do you deal with political differences in, for example, border disputes? And thank you, Jessie, for that question. That's a tough one. Maybe Pauline, maybe you want to start this time, and then we'll go to Adam and.
So most of the content we have on Africa Geoportal, again, is provided by authoritative sources, and we generally just display this information for different purposes. And we notice that at times here and there may not be agreement in terms of where the border will be actually. But now our main purpose as a platform provider is to give most of the authoritative sources of this information a platform to be able to share what is considered as the most accurate version of things like administrative boundaries, of demographic information, of resource information, and so on. So we are mainly a provider of the platform, and we have worked with authoritative sources to provide what is considered as the most accurate version of this data through the platform. Yes.
Thank you, Pauline. And Adam, do you want to add to that?
I think Pauline's covered it well, Fran. In the Earth observation side, we're trying to provide, as Pauline said, authoritative, high-quality data that others can use to make decisions. So the only thing I'd add is that we're, I think, having respect for this is about empowering African institutions and African countries to use the data as they will, not us running processes to make judgments, or not Digital Earth Africa making those judgments. So it's about empowering the institutions, not highlighting conflicts.
Thank you, Adam. And I think we're approaching the end of the session at 50-minute mark. And thank you for those who also responded to the poll. We do only have 8 people, 8 votes out of the 30-ish people attending. So for those of you that are not sure, please go to our website and have a look at what we actually offer as well. Explore for yourself, and please get in touch if you have any additional questions, and we're all here to help. Adam, Joe, and also Pauline, of course, on the Geoportal as well. So please get in touch if you're interested to know more about the Africa. And with that, I think we are happy to close this session unless anyone else has anything to add.
Thanks, Fang. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Pauline. Thanks, Paola.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you in the next session.